how would you tell people that? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Because I don't know, man. I guess I'm just loud today. So
it's gonna buffer the whole time.
So here's what's gonna happen, guys. We're gonna let you know right now. I am working on solutions behind the scenes to try to figure out why OBS keeps dropping down to 0 kilobytes per second. However, from what it looks like on my end, based on things like delay as well as my drop frame count, when it buffers, your guys aren't losing anything. It's just being delayed. So I wish I had something for you today. Just 0. So, you know, yeah, that's just how it's going to be. Also, DM Wing for $20 says, well, the emojis didn't quite come through. I think you have to have a space in the middle of talking about lagging, as 2-3 points out. Yeah, that's going to be a thing. Actually, you might want to just pause it for like 3 or 4 minutes, go get yourself a snack or a drink, and then come back, and maybe that'll help.
I don't know how any of that works.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So I'm going to be keeping track of it. If it's just keeps up being as bad as it has been in the last few minutes, this might end up being a little on the short side, but that's okay. So, Ben, before we actually get into Kent with Bent, there's a couple things I want to go over. In addition to this being a pretty bad stream for things like, you know, the buffering, which has just been atrocious today. Last month kind of sucked. Not necessarily for the channel. Like, the channel did okay. But, like, there was a lot of stuff. You guys know about the situation with me and the Lizard and Vishanti, and there's other stuff that happened in the last month that I was less public about. But, in addition to this month marking the 500th video tomorrow, we're going to be doing one video a day from today until Saturday. There's going to be a video. Yep, there's going to be a video today. There's going to be a video tomorrow. There's going to be a video Wednesday. Or sorry, that is Wednesday. It's tomorrow. There's going to be a video Thursday. Sorry, Friday and Saturday. So that is 5 videos in a row every day. There's going to be something on this channel. Because quite frankly, I want to get August off to a fun start. And then hopefully keep with that positive attitude. So tomorrow we're going to have our 500th video, and you're going to be with me. We're going to talk about some Ken Wheeler nonsense. Then after that, there's going to be an AMA, which you're welcome to stick around for, but you're also welcome to a stratigraphy video, which is the final part. Then after that, there's going to be...
So what happens for me is if I ever...
Guys, so I see all... Look, it's an Ask Me Anything. It's not necessarily an answer. I will answer everything. So I will be putting out up front, like, the questions I probably won't be answering, even if you ask them.
I'll answer the questions that you don't answer.
Oh, okay.
I'll just make something up. People can either believe it or not believe it.
That might work. Okay, so we are here for Kent with Bent, and Kent with Bent, we watch Ken Hovind, and we drink, and we laugh about that. Well, we also kind of get angry at Ken Hovind, because that's pretty bad. So, let's see. We have some drinking rules, and we're going to start going over them. So, first up, we drink whenever Ken Hovind just says something that's so stupid, we just kind of have to drink, because otherwise our brains will melt. We drink whenever Ken Hovind gets something that's factually accurate, which is one of the rarest drink triggers, but it usually does happen. I don't think we've actually gone a whole episode without drinking one, but that's in part because I start to get extremely generous as the night wears on. Let's see. We also, like the 1930s or 40s. Oh, hey, Creation Myths. We also will...
I am muted. Did you do... I think you got all of them.
Okay.
You did shower thoughts, you did bad jokes.
All right, well, in that case, we will also go over the ones that you guys can trigger. If one of you sends a super chat, like DM Wing did earlier, that contains any of the Godzilla and friend emojis, like that. Or you can, if anyone super chats anything to everyone's end, it's a serious problem. In fact, actually, there's one setting that I might be able to try, which might make it a little bit better.
So debunk supposed to do, and they don't care about it because bags of dicks don't care about doing things like that.
Tesla
Just
Ranger
stop
is
being like that. I
suggesting.
don't know. If you're not dropping frames, then it's weird to me. Like,
Yeah, it's very weird.
I don't know how to, like, I know what lower your
Resolution. No, I'm not. Oh, wait, maybe I am. Oh, but now everything is off because of my resolution. We might be back. I don't really know.
I'm back.
Well, it says there's
Well, I'm somewhere.
well, except now I'm not seeing you because that's weird.
Am I in the void?
You might be. I think that just fixed it though.
Smells weird here.
Is anyone seeing me?
Have you tried? I don't know. I don't know what to say or do.
I don't either. All right, guys. Here we go. I'll just put in a poll. And it's apparently just going to be app.
But I understand why we won't if I get outvoted. It's not great, but worst case scenario, if we had to, we could just try to do it offline as a pre-recorded, and it would be up late for everybody. I don't know.
I mean, look, if most people say yes, then I'm just going to go for it. If people want to drop out because it's just too bad.
Now, Mr. Hovind, in the winter, the snow does not get a chance to melt. It just gets packed tighter and tighter as more snow falls. It gets packed and packed and packed. And of course, next year you get 10 more feet of snow or whatever. And they said these rings that we're looking at represent annual rings. And they called them annual rings. So did the newspaper here. Newspaper article. In Greenland and Antarctica, where the
He's talking about ice cores, by the way.
weather is consistently dry and very cold, the glaciers are miles thick, but the annual rings are very thin. The deepest cores can measure over 10,000 feet. Cores from Greenland drilled since 1990 show the northern climate was erratic 135,000 years ago. And they said, Mr.
Hey, so that's pretty well. No, he was reading it though, so that doesn't count.
I was like, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, but that's because he was reading
That's
it directly.
because he hasn't said anything dumb about it yet.
Right.
Hovind, you're telling everybody, because we got this buddy working with us who goes to your seminars and thinks you're right, you're telling everybody the Earth is 6,000 years old. We are scientists. Okay. We drill through the ice.
Oh, that was a joke. Take a drink for that. Oh, and I forgot to
Or
update
was-
the drink counter.
Or was he just patting himself on the back mid-sentence?
No, that was him pretending to be the scientists, being self-congratulatory about truthfully
Okay.
pointing out that they're scientists.
You can't always tell with Kent.
Well, the thing is, so this is a part of the sort of anti-intellectualism that happens a lot in creationist circles, right? So now this is less the case in places like AIG or CMI or even ICR, right? Like the places that actually like to, for whom a pastor who hasn't gone to seminary is preferable to one who has. And there's this idea that's prevalent in a lot of American thought that like, that's not necessary. So that's basically what Kent is portraying to his audience. And yeah, guys, there's going to be buffering. I'm sorry. They're
Yeah.
concluding that. So how could you conclude this? Like, what ways could you tell that this is an annual ring or not? Well, one of the ways that we can tell is actually that we just check, like, hey, does it actually ever get warm enough here for the snow to melt in the summer that we've seen? And the answer is, well, no, although that's going to be changing soon. But for all of history, that hasn't been the case up until now. It's still not the case in these places. You also check, hey, how much snow falls here? Is it an amount that like we could build up this much in a relatively short amount of time? And the answer is also no. These ice cores are specifically taken in low precipitation areas, essentially deserts, right? Now, it's a cold desert, so it doesn't look like, the Sahara or the Sonoran Desert.
Because deserts are dry. People sometimes think deserts are hot because it's a desert, but It's not what makes it a desert.
Right. Many deserts are hot, but some of them are very, very cold. And this is an example of some of those cold desert-type areas. If you can actually see a progression of little pollens preserved in the ice, then you can check to see, hey, are these plants that are pollinated, do we get an annual cycle of different kinds of pollen, or do we get several of these layers that all end up having the same, season kind of pollen, right? If like 4 of the layers all have summer pollen, well, it's probably not that then.
We're not going to make it. We're out of gas. We got to ditch. Got to drop the planes. They flew around, looked for a flat spot. First guy came in, flipped over. The ice was pretty rough. Okay. Told the rest of them, he said, don't put your wheels down. Come in, belly land, flat, flop this thing on the ice. So the other 4, he was survived, flipping the plane over, but wrecked the plane pretty bad. And they all landed safely. They had to stay there for 2 weeks until people.
By the way, Nathaniel Gray points out that he's 2 minutes in the past and it works great. I actually highly recommend that. It'll mean that chat isn't as up to date as I would like, but also it will reduce the buffering if you guys just rewind a couple minutes or pause it for a few minutes. I wish I didn't have to say that, but that's where we are.
Come in with dog sleds and get them in the middle of no place, Greenland.
Oh, Erifamian sent $30 with no message. Thank you very much. That is very generous and frankly helps a little bit with how frustrated I am with the stream. It doesn't fix it, but it makes me feel a little better in a completely unconnected way. So I do really appreciate that.
My daughter and I flew over Greenland coming back from Ireland when I was preaching over there. There was a storm in the Atlantic. We had to fly way up north over Greenland. For an hour, we're looking out the window at all these glaciers. I mean, thousands and thousands of glaciers.
Okay, that sounds really cool.
That sounds great.
So, you know what? I'm assuming that's a story that happened because it doesn't sound like something that couldn't happen because he used to be a jet setter and a storm there doesn't seem crazy. So I think that's a story that did happen, and yeah, that sounds really cool. Oh, Chris Reese sent 5 hearts for $5. Thank you very much, Chris Reese. I really appreciate the support because my goodness, I don't feel like supporting me at this moment with this ridiculousness. Yeah, so I really appreciate it, guys.
It's not your fault. I mean, it's just hardware, software.
Sure, take my side.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Anti-jerk. Wait.
Got to be the biggest, snow cone I have ever seen. But
that was a drink that didn't, or a joke that didn't land. Biblical manuscript, and it's handwritten with hand painted, scenes and whatnot. And both nope, didn't make it. Come on, guys. It's like the one thing that would be on the top of my list for a trip to Ireland. But then again, she was pointing out a price that was absurd, and I was like, well, I'm not going to give you a gift that's that much. However, I could just save you that much by doing the calligraphy as my gift. How does that sound? And
apparently, you're great at it with your dinosaur hands. Just kind of.
Yes, it's tricky, but apparently, the trick is you actually have to move the paper as well as your hand when you have dinosaur hands, because that mimics the amount of flexibility.
Brand new airplanes sitting on the ice in Greenland.
Brand new-ish, but okay.
Nobody ever went and got them. In 48 years, it snowed a couple times, a bunch of times. They found the airplanes were 263 feet down, located by the ground-penetrating radar. They had moved 3 miles from where they landed.
Yeah, because they were on a glacier.
Because of the glacier, ice moving.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to take a drink for Ken Hovind getting that one right. That one right. I can talk. You know what, Ken? Good job. You knew why they had moved.
And they were under 263 feet of ice. And when they melted a hole down to get to one of them. They picked a P-38 that, based on the pilot's stories, which one's in the best shape when we left it? They said, well, we're going to go after that one because it's going to be the least repaired.
They're all brand new.
Yeah, that's a good point. They were supposed to be all brand new according to Ken Hovind's story, but
it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Well, it didn't work. They had to replace 80% of the parts. Would have been much cheaper to build a totally new airplane from scratch. Okay,
but then it wouldn't have been an antique, which defeats the point, Kent. Go ahead.
They spent $5 million restoring this airplane, which they could have built for $1 million, probably.
It's like pointing out that you can buy a print of the Mona Lisa for cheaper than you could buy the original. Yeah, that's true. But if your goal is to own the Mona Lisa, it doesn't matter how cheap a print is.
You know what's cheaper than buying a replica is just kind of remembering what it looks like.
Yeah, but
I mean,
if you're
keep
like
going and going and going,
if
but
you're a
why
collector
can't?
of like original paintings or actual artifacts from a war or something like that, the whole point is to have the one that was the real one. So yeah, it makes sense that you would pay millions of dollars to find and restore actual. Kent just doesn't understand the fact that people have preferences that don't match his. Is just kind of weird to me. Like, Ken Hovind lives in a
Yeah.
world where anything that isn't what he would personally like to do is just bizarre. Like, we've heard him complain about people watching TV or playing video games or listening to music. And it's like, dude, man, not everyone is you, nor should they be. I don't want a world where everyone is Ken Hovind, my goodness.
My gosh, that would be the worst. That would be proof of hell.
I don't even want everyone to be me. Alright, here we go.
But they took it apart,
Keep me
brought the
honest.
Oh, yeah. He did say bent.
pieces up. It's a P-38. The Germans called it the fork-tailed devil. They were scared stiff of that airplane because it was a really good fighter plane.
I think technically that counts as a mention of the National Socialist German Workers' Party and their activities in the 1930s and 40s. Because that's who the Germans were at the time in terms of the military. So we'll take a drink for that. Although, look, I understand that's a bit on, like, it's an edge case.
Had machine guns mounted on the top. I don't know if you can see them there.
Test tape or whatever was higher quality than this.
A high quality cartoon.
Well, I mean, high quality enough that you could actually tell what was going on.
Fair.
Middleborough, Kentucky. He had
Right
all the
now it's
pieces.
just blurry lines on paper, so
It's not even on paper. It's just on a screen.
that's true.
Brochure girl. It is still flying today in air shows. I was in Wisconsin a couple weeks ago. It was
Eventually, he's going to get to a point, I promise.
there.
will
I was
not
10
make that
miles away, but I
promise.
was preaching, didn't have time to go see it. I've seen it before. I went to Middleborough to meet the guy. Okay, in the ground, 48 years.
Stay out of Oshkosh.
263 found.
Nah, you could probably
263
go there. It's free country.
feet down. You do the math. That's 5.5 feet of year of ice every year accumulates.
More icefall. Why is that? Well,
Oh,
quite simply, it's a mountainous country, and when you're close to the ocean, you're more likely to actually get precipitation, because in the interior of a mountainous country, most of the precipitation is going to have to fall out, and it's going to get blocked from the interior. That's why the interior is so darn dry. Nathaniel Gray with a Godzilla emoji that for some reason are the emojis just not working, guys? I'm gonna try an emoji here.
mine worked when I did mine.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, I'm gonna count it because you tried, and like I'm not gonna say that some like weird error on YouTube's part is your fault. So we're gonna take a drink for that. Nathaniel Gray for $5 says, Godzilla, what does Kent like doing? He's from the. Is he the town from Footloose Incarnate? Yeah, basically. He likes sitting and thinking, reading the Bible, preaching to people, and lying about science. Those are the 4 things that he's okay with. That's about it.
What does he think about when he's thinking? Like, because he's not really doing any critical thinking.
I mean, he did change his mind on pre versus post tribulation rapture, I think. So, like,
I didn't know Kent Hovind has ever changed his mind on it.
fair enough. He allowed him to change his mind. But yeah, he likes almost nothing. Okay, where was it? Oh, right. The planes landed near the coast, right? So they did land on glaciers, and they were taken several miles from where they were. Works, Kent. Also, Kerry Bronson for $5 says, Kent is like a Christian Rick Sanchez, in that he actively looks for reasons to think those different from him are stupid, making him smart by proxy. Yeah, actually, that would make sense. I could see that as a realistic possibility. Yeah. Alright. Where's my mouse? Here it is. Now I can hit play.
The guys told me they could lay the ice core out and prove the Earth is 135,000 years old. Well, that's assuming that they're annual rings.
Mm-hmm.
Deeper.
Usually something that actually tells you something important about the topic, or something that
It's
reveals...
entirely trivial.
Yeah, it's always bits of trivia.
It's just a trivia show. Do you happen to know this factoid? And I don't like the word factoid, but
the thing is,
it
that's
applies in this. And that's
his view.
not how any knowledge on a topic really works.
Right, that's his view of what science is. It's just a series of little facts that you can spew out. And if you can spew out enough facts, it means you know science. And Kent Hovind doesn't particularly care to check up on them. As long as they don't contradict things he already believes, he's willing to just like, sure.
Not how that works.
Right.
becomes kind of more like a plastic. It kind of flows, a little bit like glaciers kind of they ooze down there. Like a pile of tar will slowly, flat.
All right, I'm going to take a quick drink for something. We're going to
What?
explain it in a second. Okay, so
I just
apparently,
got dumber, so
Ken
I'll take
Hovind
a
realizes
drink.
that with sufficient pressure, ice can plastically deform, which is something he denies about rock, despite the fact that it's true for both for the same reason. So that little drink was for Kent not realizing that his stance that, yes, water ice can plastically deform is directly contradictory to his stance that no, lithified rock cannot plastically deform.
I did not get plastic deformation at all from what Kent said. I'm glad you explained it, because I was like, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
It turns into plastic?
Anyway,
no,
that's
not what he
his
said.
silly way of talking about plastic deformation.
It's fair. That's fair. It's just
except for all the reasons that we talked about earlier, like pollen counts, actual observed snowfalls, the place you're taking these from.
Listen, I go through so many ice cubes.
Plug the airplane out. It'd be wise if you're going to speak on creation to call Bob, so you can say, I talked to him. He'll be glad to talk with you. He works there full-time at the airport in Middleborough. 606-248-1149, the airport phone number. They're a little tiny airport.
Look, I'm pretty sure that none of the phone numbers that he gives are still valid, so I don't suggest that anyone call any of them, but, like, I don't know, maybe. Maybe they work. I doubt it. All right.
He's one of the guys on the crew that helped dig out the P-38. I went and talked to Bob in April of '99. I saw the airplane. They were still working on it. I think they got it done in 2004 or 3. I said, Bob, when you went down to get to the airplane, did you go through ice rings?
Well, I guess that now means that we're, like, I think we said that this was maybe in, like, 2006. That helps confirm it.
Rings. He said, hundreds of them. I said, now how do you get hundreds of annual rings in 48 years? Shouldn't there be somewhere around, like, 48?
It's because that location doesn't get annual layers. It's a different location.
If you want to know why you'll get rain on the coast, I bet you could find out at Science Side Up. I bet there's information on that channel.
That's a good point. The basics, like for kids, it's basically this. Where does rain come from?
Puget Sound area where I lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the mountains, the Cascades blocked the rain so they couldn't get away from, they couldn't get further east, and so it just accumulates right around the Seattle area. You might learn in earth science in, like, 4th grade. Oh, okay, not 4th grade, 7th grade or something, right? It's like that's all this needs to debunk a huge swath of what Ken Hovind says.
Let's be clear. I don't remember learning any of that in the YEC high school and junior high. It was a kindergarten through high school.
I was going to point out, yeah, but you went to a YEC school.
Well, I know that, but I did not know that was a thing that was taught.
Yeah.
Before we had a microbiology class in high school. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
We had Bible class and chapel.
Yeah. Look, I don't have a problem with school having a Bible class or a chapel class. However, it can't be at the expense of other stuff, guys.
I don't know if high schools need microbiology or not, but, like, the public schools were really bad when I was growing up, and then 15 years later when I was in college, I guess they weren't so bad anymore. That's too far off topic. Let's get back to Kent.
Let's get back to Kent.
Ew, I can't believe I said that.
He said, annual rings? What are you talking about? I said, well, I was told, you got the dark layer representing summer where it melted, and the white layer where it winter and it got packed, and you got dark light, summer, winter, summer, winter. 135,000 years worth. He said, those aren't summer, winter, summer, winter. They represent warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, cold. You can get 5 of those in 1 week.
At the coast, maybe.
At the coast in southern Greenland, which is another thing. He was in southern Greenland. Yeah, in places you can. You can't in the Yay, Kent.
It couldn't be more complicated than how you're portraying it. That would be impossible.
At 62 feet down, they hit a plywood cover left by another expedition that had gone there before. In 1983, somebody went to try to dig out the plane. So it can accumulate even faster than that. Now, we know that. Bob told me that there were 30 to 40 rings accumulated. But here's an article in Scientific American still calling them annual rings. Either the guy's ignorant or he's lying.
That's what I would say too. Well, we're going to take a drink for Kent Hovind getting something right. He just was a little bit off as to who the person who's either lying or ignorant is.
Right?
See, ignorance, can be fixed. Stupid is forever,
Can it, though?
but ignorance can be fixed. The guy that works with the Eskimos told me, Dr. Hovind, I got 15.
Stupid then.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows better. I'm sure he's been corrected on this stuff a million times.
Oh, Elusive Man says good morning. Good morning, Elusive Man. So the Front Runner said melting through the ice, but I guess, it's because of gravity in the broad sense of that's why snow falls. So I don't know.
I mean, I had some similar thoughts, like, it's the pressure of the plane causing what's below it to turn into water, melt a little bit, and then it kind of falls through it, and it refreezes on top.
So there's actually a way that we could, sort of test that, right? So this would be a function of buoyancy, right? So what's holding up the planes is essentially going to be the same thing as there's going to be a buoyant force, essentially. Because if you're trying to hold something like that, that's the mathematical model you're going to need to use. So you can look at, okay, are there other particles in ice layers that are more or less dense than the ice? Do they sink through layers such that they're more concentrated in lower layers? And do the bubbles and whatnot rise through layers such that they're more concentrated in upper layers? And the answer is no. Joe Smith says a heated plane melt ice. Yeah, so there could have been some initial melting right when the planes were ditched. But, that's not going to get you, tens of feet, dozens of feet, right? That might melt a few inches here or there. That might be, why the very bottom layer might have been melted or something. But it really is because there is lots of snowfall where those planes are. It's just that where those planes are is not at all where the ice cores are taken.
Come on, how big could Greenland really be?
Well, it's not as big as it looks on a lot of those schoolyard maps, but it's also, what is it, the biggest island in the world?
It's pretty big. I don't think it's as big as Australia, but I could be wrong.
Well, that's because we just arbitrarily decided that Australia was a continent. Fun story, Kent. I don't actually doubt that this is a thing that could have happened. But did the layers have different kinds of pollen at different points in the layers? Is that a thing that you checked on? And then Paleologos points out, but aren't all continents really island? Look, guys, yeah, when you call something an island versus when you call it a continent, I don't normally count Australia. It's a continent. Because that's the convention.
I've always been trained or told that Australia was also an island.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
No, yeah.
Eskimos have over 40 words for snow.
Okay, so incorporate the word for snow in other terms. So, they'll have a term for, snow melt, water that you get from snow melt or something. Or, it's what kind of day it is might be a snowy day, and that gets incorporated. Now, another problem with this is that counting words in Inuit languages is a little tricky because Inuit languages are polysynthetic. So they like to take a word and then shove 8 more words inside of it to create a big long word that could mean an entire complicated sentence. Is that a new word? Do you write it in the dictionary? And the answer in most cases is well, no, because that's not it. Basically, it's a lot more complicated than just, they have 40-something words for snow. Not really how it works. And as Mackenzie Brown points out, polysynthetic languages are based. Yes, they are.
Also, how many words they have for snow is not related to layers of snow.
Right, yeah, that's another good point.
Penkian. And it's fine that he sent that message. He probably was just making a statement. But the fact that Kent would use the statement...
So words for snow, therefore... what? Here we go.
What else is there to talk about? Anybody
That was a joke that 1 didn't land, and 2 was really kind of gross.
I didn't understand the joke. I don't want to. I missed the context. I don't want to know it. Let's move on.
Okay.
you on the ski slopes, you guys, Nikki, about the different types of snow. There's all different types of snow, and they got to watch for that for avalanches. You know, if you get packed snow on top of slippery snow, you got a avalanche hazard, you know.
All right, so I'm going to take a drink for Kent basically being right. It is the case that there are different consistencies of snow, and some of them cause more of an avalanche hazard than others. And this is something that people keep track of in terms of like slope safety for ski slopes and mountains and whatnot, because avalanches are a thing. So, you know, good job, Kent. You got something. Casual racism aside.
So anyway, who cares? But the fact is, it is not correct to say that the annual rings would prove the Earth is more than 6,000 years old. Quite the opposite.
Except that since they are in fact annual, also they're not rings. This isn't a tree. These are layers. I haven't really been pointing it out, but it's been the case the whole time.
It looks like a ring when you pull the core out.
Yeah,
I guess.
I get it, but like it's layers. They're not ring shaped.
They don't call them rings in the.
But yeah, okay. Here we go.
The ice cores prove the Earth is not more than 4,400 years old since this big flood. One of the many, many indicators. We'll cover more of these next week. And he thought he was going to speed up the process by finding out.
No.
What just happened?
They did some kind of edit.
Oh, on the day with the camera and like some kind of software.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Which actually, by the way, there's 10. And I was thinking, okay, so does that mean we have 3 more to go? And then, like, what's next for Kent with Bent? Well, it turns out we went from CSE 101 to CSE 201. However, there's a CSE 102, 103, and 104, each of which is about 10 hour, 20-minute-ish long videos. So, we got
good
years.
To go through the 2020s.
Yeah, we got years and years. So or at least eugenics, but whenever Ken Hovind talks about eugenics, he likes to leave off, like, you know, how popular it was in the United States. He only wants to talk about the eugenics going on over in Germany in the 20th century.
And of course, history tells us what happened. The Bible says God created man. What does...
You know what? Technically, that's true. I'll take a drink. It does say that.
We're back on this slide again.
I mean...
7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12.
This could
Bullet
be...
points and numbers. I love it.
Yeah, because you need both. To be fair, though, this could be him getting to the topic, which is, does the Bible match evolution? Because we haven't really talked about that in this entire almost 2-hour video.
Months.
Yeah.
In months of Kent with Bent.
What does evolution say?
No, not at all. So the elusive man asks if Dr. Kent has gotten back to me about being able to identify dinosaur remains. As far as I know, no. And he's been subsequently asked that question in multiple debates that he's had. And as far as I know, he's never actually been able to successfully answer it. So as far as I know,
have been less funny than the first time he was asked.
True. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, as far as I know, to this day, Dr. Dino remains unable to tell anyone by what criteria he could judge an animal to be a dinosaur or not.
Maybe it should be directly posed to him like, hey, what about an open acetabulum? Would that make a dinosaur or not? Would that have anything to do with it? And he has to answer yes or no.
You think he knows what the word acetabulum
I know he doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I can't know that, and yet I know that.
Look, okay, so here's why you can say you know it. Knowledge, at the most basic definition, right, is justified true belief. I think you have a justified reason.
It didn't stick in his head because he's already learned everything he needs to know. Why bother learning anything else?
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Man created God. Isn't that what evolution theory would teach? There is no God. Man created him.
No, actually,
then, wait,
no. So it's God creates dinosaurs. God kills dinosaurs. God creates man. Man creates dinosaurs. Dinosaurs
man
eat
kills
man.
God.
No, it's dinosaurs eat man. What's his name? I don't remember. Franchise movies. And it's not even a close competition. That movie is amazing.
No, I've only watched like 2 of them.
Well, if one of them was...
It was by far the best one of the 2.
Well, yeah, that's not surprising. Also, Tommy Dragon, who's been a member for 5 months at Tetrad level, points that fact out without a message. Thank you very much, Tommy Dragon. I really appreciate the support. All right, here we go.
We need a God. And they have their whole theory of how God evolved from,
Okay, no, this is not evolution. This might be like some kind of like sociology or like something like that. But evolution doesn't really have a stance on how the idea of God got into the human consciousness. Like, yeah.
worshiping rocks and stumps and trees to finally, monotheism. And, they got it all backwards, exactly backwards.
Okay, so we're gonna take a drink for Kent just taking like the sort of lazy version of sociology in terms of evolution of religion and whatnot that was basically prevalent at like maybe the mid 20th century, but by this time that was already starting to be pretty out of vogue. So give me a second. Okay, based almost entirely on the fact that the world's two largest religions happen to be monotheistic religions, which are Islam and Christianity. But the thing is that when you zoom into individual societies, there doesn't actually seem to be this same trend, right? So, like, in fact, you can't. Okay, so when you zoom in, that's not really the overall trend. And like I was going to point out, you get places where you can't even divide the religion neatly into those areas. So, for instance, were the Greeks polytheists, animists, or monotheists? Now, the typical answer is they were polytheists, right? Because you learn about the Greek gods. Okay, but then if you read a lot of Greek philosophers who influence a lot of what people believed, even if they continue to perform the various rituals of the polytheistic. But so there was this idea that like the gods, as you call them, maybe they exist or not, and if they exist, they're certainly powerful spirits. But ultimately, there is a god who is the prime mover of the universe, who is the reason that creation exists, and things like that, right? But on the other hand, are they animistic? Well, they had things like like nymphs and dryads and things like this that were nature spirits that are basically the spirit of natural objects like trees and rivers and mountains and whatnot. So, is ancient Greece animistic? Yeah, in some cases. Is it polytheistic? Yeah, in some cases. Is it monotheistic? Yeah, in some cases. And the same thing happens in India, right? So you have these hundreds and hundreds of local deities that are worshipped in different places. Some of them there are also some sort of like bigger deities like Vishnu and Shiva and whatnot. But also, there are Brahma is actually the one actual god, and all of these other entities that we're worshipping are simply emanations from this Brahma. They're aspects of him. He is the one real being. So again, is it in anthropology and sociology right now? The idea of the animism to monotheism pipeline. So we're gonna hit play again. Now, as far as creation myths, Catholicism being polytheistic, the problem is that what counts as a god is ill-defined. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
People say, couldn't God use evolution to create? These two theories could not be more different.
I mean, let's answer the question. Couldn't God use evolution to create? The answer is yes. Now we can continue.
I don't see any way they could be.
Weird question. Couldn't instead of could, and then use evolution to create. He's doing a psychological thing.
Yeah. So
he's telling you while pretending to ask.
English actually has grammatical methods to indicate the expected answer to a yes/no question. One of them is whether or not the main verb of the question is negated or not. Another one is called the tag question, where you say, God didn't use evolution, right?
Oh, that reminds me of a stinking public trial that was on the news or whatever a couple months ago. And that's how lawyers speak, and I hate it.
Yeah. So that's called a tag question. That tag questions assume that you're going to give the answer that agrees with the previous or the rest of this question. And using the negation is a weaker form of implying an expected answer.
More different. They are just exactly the opposite. Could God use evolution to create? Well, the God that would need to use evolution is cruel, wasteful, and retarded.
Oh, well, you know what? This isn't a regular drink, but we'll
15 years ago, some groups of people I talk with now still think it's okay. I don't know. I don't like using that term.
Wait, hold on, creation myths. What word did you learn? I'm confused because creationist is like, oh, I learned a word. Like, wait, which one?
It is certainly not the God of the Bible. Think about evolution process.
Why?
The God that would have to use that is cruel.
But you know what? We are actually
Can I
going to...
make a prediction?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Mine never come true, but...
Oh, we didn't actually mention the prediction drink. We do drink for fulfilled predictions.
Well, there you go.
They take a quick break. And during the break, I'm sure it'll buffer like 8 more times. Who knows? So, guys, we will be right. Almost entirely supported by people voluntarily giving. And, I mean, quite frankly, it's always a toss-up whether or not it's going to be in the red or in the black month to month. It has been in the black more often than not this year, which that means a lot to me, right? Like a lot. However,
This is your full-time job.
basically, yeah. I mean, right now, I'm trying to keep it that way. I spend anywhere from like 8 to sometimes 16 or more hours a day making sure videos get out on time, early actually, scripting, and channel membership starts at just $1.99 a month. Get access to having a cool little symbol, a green name. You can put in channel emojis in the chat, as well as it gives you access to the Discord, and at higher tiers there are other rewards that are spelled out in the in the forum emojis. So but if you do decide to do that, I really thank you. And also, if you've already been doing that, then you guys are the reason this channel still exists, at least in the form it does. Because I mean, this week we're getting 5 videos. Most weeks it's 3, and it takes a lot of work to get 3 videos out a week. Even if some of them are live streams, I still have to plan for these live streams. I have to set up for them. I have to get ready. And those weekly videos, they sometimes take about a week to make. I mean, that's like if I average the whole thing out, right? So, scripting can take the better part of a week. Recording of death. We're going to take a drink for confirmed prediction. Here we go.
Isn't it cruel to have animals that are, partially developed and inferior and going to struggle and die?
Well, no, because I'm not here for the theology.
The mentality for something that's coming in the future, unless we go extinct soon or something like that.
Yeah. And also,
he feels like we've reached peak evolution. How come there's still this and still that? He has no idea what he's talking about.
Also, Blockadelator, which I don't know if I'm saying that right, says, isn't it cruel to flood an entire planet and just leave one pair of each animal alive? Yeah, I would argue that it's at least... If you're going to say one is cruel, you're going to have a hard time arguing that the other one isn't.
That's only if you take that literally. Wait a minute.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Kent does. Which is one of the things that I point out to people sometimes. They're like, oh, hey, Dapper, this thing you said about like the Bible, it's not really true. It's like, I know, but this person thinks it is, which means they're being contradictory. Like if I point out that, hey, that Kent, being a biblical literalist, should think that it was written by Paul because it says it is. So, yeah, here we go.
The whole evolution process of struggle and death is contrary to the Christian God.
I mean,
evolution is wasteful.
I don't know what it means to be wasteful if you're infinitely powerful. What it means to be infinitely powerful is you can use infinite amounts of energy on anything and still have infinite energy left over.
Right.
It's literally impossible for an omnipotent being to be wasteful. Only creatures with a limited ability to influence the world and limited resources can be wasteful. Like I can be wasteful if I decided that, like, oh, you know that chicken that's in the freezer? I'm just gonna toss it outside and let it rot. But I'm not gonna let any like animals feed off it or anything. I'm just gonna put it like under like a big like rubber tub or something and make sure it just like putrefies in there. That would be wasteful. Why? Well, because I don't have infinite money to go buy infinite amounts of chicken. So, but if I were God, who could just poof chicken into existence? So, Paleo Logo says, no, it's a decomposition experiment. Oh, but that's the thing. I'm not actually going to take any notes on it. It's just going to happen, and I'm going to completely ignore it, and then I'm just going to wash it away. No one will ever hear the results of this experiment. And remember, the difference between just messing around and science is note-taking. That's a little simplified, but there's some truth to it.
How many bazillions of animals had to die in order to get this thing to work, you know?
I don't know.
0.
Well, I mean, yeah, had to, 0. How many did? Lots.
I mean, it's just a wasteful process. And it's retarded. There's
We're just gonna we're gonna take another. Have to.
no direction to it. Just things kind of, meander on the way.
Also, I do want to point out, this was in like 2006 or so. That particular word was...
Remember for sure which one. It was a period of time where different people are like, oh wait, we shouldn't use that word anymore, and that hasn't just reached everyone yet. And so a lot of people were still okay with it, and I don't know. I'm trying to be less judgy about that, even though I hate it. I hate it so much. But like, it's just how society was at the time.
There's no goal. There's no goal in mind. They're just, let it evolve. That is certainly not the God of the Bible.
Okay, so here's something about itself isn't a goal-directed process. However, if you're an omnipotent being, you get to set up all of the initial conditions, which means you get to guarantee the outcome that you want from the outset. So something can both be uncontrolled in a sense of how you can measure it, but also, if you grant the existence of an omnipotent being, completely guided according to his goals. So, oddly enough, evolution can both be unguided and also have as its predetermined goal humans. It's not actually mutually contradictory. Now, again, I'm not here to tell you what your theology should be, so I'm not going to actually argue for it other than to point out it's actually not logically contradictory.
Know why evolution would need a goal? Like, the fact that it doesn't have a goal, it's just a...
Well, it does for Kent, though.
It doesn't for Christianity or for science. It does for Kent's interpretation of both. And it's baffling.
Hey.
And we'll cover much more on that on video 7 in about 6 years when we get there, on the theistic evolution. Those people try to say God...
I mean, 6 years does sound about right. For us, at least.
So he had a smirk on his face. I think he was trying to make a joke there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Land.
Take a drink for that.
Although I appreciated the joke.
But it didn't land. No one laughed.
I know. That's why I drank for it, but I appreciated it.
God used evolution are, first place, it's not what the Bible says, okay? There's no evidence for evolution anyway.
The Bible,
Why is a good
the
book
Bible
with a
doesn't
dumb
talk about
theory?
evolution because it's not a science book.
Yep.
There's evidence for evolution. Don't say there's no evidence for evolution. There's
Seriously, one of them is evolution. So if you can't find a way to combine evolution with your theology, then sorry, but your theology is demonstrably wrong. And you're believing in at least a false version of your religion.
Not the God of the Bible. So when I get into a discussion and people say, well, I believe God used evolution, I say, well, look, you're welcome.
People that they don't believe in the God of the Bible. The most you can say is, I don't.
God.
Oh.
But that's not the God of the Bible. He's got a different God than I do.
I mean, at least in that case, he does in fact reject the Bible as an authoritative scripture, and he has a different scripture. At least there's that. But that's not the case with theistic evolutionist Christians.
Okay? The Mormons have a different God than I do. Just because somebody says the word God does not mean they're talking about the same person that is the God of the Bible.
I don't know if anyone has the same God that Kent has.
Yeah,
Any Christian.
Kent has a very specific
17 lies in a row.
Okay, I just took a drink for Psalm chapter 8. That's why it's called the Book of Psalms. Each psalm is its own poem. And,
Not the book of the chapters of Psalms.
Right. And quite both scratching their fingernails on a chalkboard, but also somehow managing to dig into the chalkboard and like fracture it up. That's how it feels on the inside of my brain. Tell me that you don't know anything about the Bible without telling me that you don't know anything about the Bible is basically how that comes across.
That's how the inside of my brain feels all the time.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
All right.
It itches bad.
I love this psalm. The whole psalm is amazing.
But now he gets it right.
David said, when I consider thy heavens.
I already heard this bit.
Wait, is it heavens or heaven?
Oh, good point.
Now keep in mind, David spent his early life doing what? What was David as a kid?
He was a shepherd. That's my prediction. He's going to say he was a shepherd.
He was a shepherd and kind of a rock star. He was.
Shepherd.
He was a very talented musician.
Oh, I got it right, though. He said shepherd, so we're taking a drink for correct prediction. Yes, it's a very easy one.
You get a lot of time to lay out there and consider the heavens. I mean, lots of time.
No YouTube.
Hey, that was a
no
joke.
Light pollution.
That's true. No light pollution. And that would be nice. I've a few times seen the night sky without light pollution, and it's a lot better. I'll say that. It's a lot better.
Figure you go to bed, you go to sleep probably, 10 o'clock or so, 11 o'clock or whatever. And, well, it gets dark way before that. So you get all the sheep in the pasture, you lay down to block the gate, so the wolf doesn't come in and the sheep don't go out.
I mean, David had to worry about lions. There were lions in the area at that time.
There was one wolf, okay? Kent said it. He wouldn't lie. Christians can't lie.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Although, look, like, that's actually not a criticism of Kent, right? It's just a point in range from, like, an ecological standpoint. But then again, from, like, a safety standpoint of the humans living all over Eurasia.
All right, let me just say it like this. There's something majestic about seeing that lion with the mane and do the roar in the old school films and all that. Like, lions are really cool to me.
I agree.
I subjectively like them a lot. I also like bald eagles and
where they act like asshole crows.
They act
plus seagulls.
To me, when I see an eagle, it's like, okay, that's the top of life.
Okay.
It can do what it wants. I know it's not really like that, but
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to say I have a different opinion of eagles.
It's more like eagles are cool, dinosaurs are cool,
dinosaurs are cool,
lions are cool. That's all it is.
So Tapioca Weasel says that the Godzilla I haven't tried any more than like the $1 level. So, and yeah, crows are cooler.
And now you got 4 or 5 hours to sit there and practice your harp or whatever you're going to do.
I like it.
Liar. But that's okay. Liars are basically just mini harps.
Oh, I thought you called Kent a liar.
No,
this is lying?
Lyre, sorry.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, David was a rock star. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
Or you can't read a book unless you got
at least.
Right.
a candle. And you consider the heavens. If anybody knew how to consider the heavens, it'd be David.
I mean, fair.
We don't. This is something we have.
Well, because like he said, he spent a lot of time outside at night, probably.
He did write that psalm, that
Yeah.
chapter.
Right. Well, at least it's
I made
attributed to David, and from Kent's standpoint, that means it was David. So
Lost in our culture. We are so busy being
Do that, by the way, if you're on a computer. If you
Mm.
ever use a computer or a cell phone, it's impossible to also take time to consider the heavens.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Well, there's definitely no such thing as like an astronomy app that you can put on your phone, or like any kind of night sky exploration thing you can put on your computer.
Space telescope that you can download.
Excuse me.
From NASA.
On this channel, we use the.
It's on me. But also from the spiritual perspective, you can still be on your phone or computer or whatever, and then go lay in your pool and look up at stars and
That's oddly
try
specific.
not to fall asleep in a pool. Consider the heavens,
Look,
you know?
you know what?
Taking time to consider the heavens. It's kind of rude to all the people sitting there watching Kent talk to them in
Yeah.
that room he's in.
Yeah.
I think.
All right, here we go.
watch the clouds float by. Or go out at night and just watch the stars. We camped out in the mountains once in Colorado. My uncle Kurt took us all up there, and we got the tents out there in the middle of the mountains, no place, Colorado, real high elevation. And I
That's true. We'll take a drink. Colorado is real high elevation. I drove just past it into Wyoming right before it like swept over the highway.
Were you seeing smoke and stuff?
Oh yeah, lots of it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
table at the campground.
That's
Here we are, 50 miles from any city. Has you ever been in a situation like that where it's just stars, like you can't believe how many stars there are?
Yeah, I have. I know I've told the story a few times, but one time going between Las Cruces and Phoenix, once you get away from Las Cruces, which is not exactly the biggest area and like the biggest town in the world, you're pretty far away from Albuquerque and Las Cruces, and I mean between that and like Arizona, like Phoenix, basically, there's only little towns here and there, like Payson, Arizona, or Snowflake, Arizona. These are not exactly metropolises, right? So yeah, you get out far enough, and if you pull off on, like, I'm with Kent on this one. It's an amazing experience if you can go out into a really, really, truly dark area and take a look at the sky. I highly recommend it. It's pretty awesome.
We saw 100 shooting stars per hour.
No, you didn't. That's a story that didn't happen. We've already checked up on this story. There are no meteor showers that come even close to a rate of 100 shooting stars an hour.
And then he talks to this. No, it was like 200 or 300.
Yeah.
My brother and I. It was just incredible. All of us. I don't know if it was. I was probably 12 at the time, so I don't remember what month it was. There are 2 times a year when the Earth goes through a band of broken up fragments where you get meteor showers. You know, it's September and August and September, I believe, or twice we go through.
Has left debris in its orbit. So, good job, Kent. We'll take a drink for that.
It might have been then. I don't know. We saw a bunch of them that night. But he said, when I consider thy heavens. We don't take time to stop and think. We're too busy being entertained. This is why kids are not developing the depth of character and understanding that they should and that they used to in the olden days.
Okay. This is one of those, that's too stupid, so we're taking a drink. Here's the thing, right? We have, like, letters from ancient Sumeria from, like, fathers to sons, and the kids are just not as respectful and as moral and as smart as they were when I was a kid. The kids today just are terrible. Great, man. Great, old man. Keep yelling at that cloud, man. No one cares. It's just not true. There's no way to actually say... I like to think the human race in the past few thousand years has made intellectual and moral progress. So if anything, the new generations are typically doing better. Now, sure, that might change, here and there. If you find a way to measure it, I'm sure there will be, like, a zigzaggy graph. But the graph overall is trending up. So, yeah. Kent going full old man yells at clouds is always fun.
Psalm 39, the psalmist said, while I was musing...
You got it right this time. Good job, Kent. You didn't say Psalm chapter 39.
He never
The fire
finished
burned.
Psalm 8. He barely touched on it.
Yeah, he really didn't.
The word muse means to think.
True. We'll take
When
a
you
drink.
stop and think, He said, while I was musing, while I was thinking, the fire burned. And some people, they get this burning in their heart, like, man, I just want to do something for God, because if you take
woke him
time
up
to
at 3 a.m. when he was camping. It was the heartburn. I knew it.
meditate, think, just take the time, shut.
By the way, this is not a current thing that's happening. He's talking about things like the pilgrimage to Jerusalem for like Passover. Now, there is a relatively smaller scale, a core part of pre-AD 70 Jewish practice. It's actually one of the reasons why Rabbinic Judaism is significantly different. Would want a citation for the fact that they would just sing the Psalms. I'm not saying it didn't happen. In fact, that doesn't seem unlikely at all, but I would want the citation.
There's a word they would say in there. Anybody know what that word is, which means stop?
It's the best guesses that I've seen, at least as far as I can tell, which is, I mean, I'm far from a Hebrew expert, is that it's
Shanti,
some
what does
kind
it
of...
mean?
I don't think she knows either.
Yet.
Well, what I've seen as far as like plausible guesses are things like, this was probably some kind of notation for like some kind of change in how the music is supposed to go, because the Psalms are in fact supposed to be sung originally. They were songs.
Modulate to the next key up. That's what it means.
Like it might be that.
That's
right?
how we did it in church.
Well, there
I
you
don't know
go.
about Selah, but
So it could be something like that,
Yeah.
right? Like it's probably some relatively closely related languages have some of the craziest things said about both of them, and I think it's primarily because they're both liturgical languages for major religions, as well as for Christianity. Hebrew is still a big deal in terms of it's the language the majority of the Christian Bible was written in. So that leads to people saying all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, did you guys know that Hebrew is the original language? Which, no, it's not. But people say the same thing about Arabic. And people will say, like, oh, like every English word derives from Hebrew or Arabic or something. It's like that scene from My Big Fat Greek Wedding where, like, the dad in a flashback is seen as, like, every word comes from Greek. And it's just, no, it doesn't.
does it though?
Oh, all right, here we go.
Selah. Stop and think.
Oh, hey, that was right. We'll take a drink.
They'd be walking along, evolving, what, 200 and...
What? Just
200...
it was a hard cut to a completely different day, apparently. Well, he's wearing the same shirt, so maybe not. But, like,
I don't know.
okay, this is the weirdest video we've done. I don't think this was entirely intentional. Also, that desk is oddly flag-like. It looks like an okay-ish flag.
300 million years ago, and insects coming 150 million years ago. I think I need to change that one. According to Genesis, the creeping things were created before the fish. Look at Genesis chapter 5. Let me put a question on that, and I may have to modify 0.6. I think I have got them reversed here in the wrong one. Because evolution has insects after, fish before insects.
I mean...
Time out.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't know. I'm going to go backwards in time because I looked up Selah, and one of the potential meanings, quote, stop and listen, not the same as stop and think. That's it. I had to go back in time for that because it took me that long to look it up. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry, though.
It's close to what he was talking about.
Yeah, but stop and think reinforces something that he's arguing. And
Let me know. It says, so Kent came before fish, implying that he's an insect, which is an insult to insects. How dare you? There are many lovely insects out there.
Evolution says. Genesis, I'll go back and look at that one.
I love how confused he is.
Finish the rest of these here. The Bible has plants before the sun. Plants on day 3, sun on day 4. Evolution has the sun.
Let's just think about that and like how plants work and what is that word? Something.
Photosynthetics.
Yeah, photosynthesis. That's it.
Oh yeah, photosynthesis.
And that requires what?
Light.
What do the plants need? They need light.
They need light. But he's just going to argue
like a lot, like from the sun.
He's just going to argue that like they could survive a day.
They could survive if God miracled a whole bunch of light to them without the sun. But,
Billions of years before the Earth even came around. So it's backwards on the order of creation. The Bible has marine mammals coming before land mammals. Things in the water made first on day 5, marine or land mammals made on day 6. Evolution has land mammals first, and then they evolved back into the ocean.
I mean, yeah.
Think about that. Evolutionist says, oh yeah, some fish came up out of the water, evolved legs, walked on land.
Well, it evolved, catches its prey by, like, surprise snapping up of things.
Turned around, went back into the water, and became a whale.
I mean, you're skipping a whole lot of steps, but I guess, kind of. But also, populations of these animals, not individuals. So it's not a fish. It's a population of fish did all of this. In fact, they've splintered into many subpopulations along this whole timeline.
Evolved onto land and then evolved back. The Bible has birds before reptiles. Evolution has reptiles before birds. Again, go back.
So that's actually a curious thing, right? After the rest of the birds, right? But also, what about creationism? Because if you're creating organisms in terms of habitat and mode of locomotion, then you're getting birds and reptiles on the earlier day, as well as getting birds and reptiles on the later day. So, like, I think it's day 5 and 6. Like, day 5 is the marine animals and the flying animals, and day 6 is the terrestrial animals. So you're going to have a mix, right?
I can look at the geologic column, that ones they publish in the textbooks. You'll see that's exactly what they do teach. It is backwards to the Bible.
Except in those cases where it's actually, like, it's a mix. So it's not backwards, it's just that evolution picks an order.
It's not backwards to the Bible. It's completely has nothing to do with the Bible at all. It's completely unrelated. It's an entirely different field of study.
Yep. All right, here we go.
The Bible says the atmosphere was between 2 layers of water, and evolution says the atmosphere is above the water.
I mean, because of the physical impossibility of suspending water, we're actually just re-going over stuff from earlier. So I don't really think it's worth it to go start up the next video right now, because, I mean, we're already,
there's some guitar pedals for music I've been working on.
Okay.
There's a lot of music I've been recording. A lot.
Actually, I've been hearing a lot.
None of it's ready yet. So
might not be ready, but a lot of it's pretty good, in my opinion.
Yeah. So a lot of progress has been made, and it's going to be at some point announced and released and all that.
Awesome.
But I don't know. I don't know when it's ready.
All right. So let's see. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing our 500th video. Here's the real thing. I'm not actually sure if it's technically the 500th video because I get different video counts from different sources, but it's close enough, and it's either going to be, it's within like 5 of the 500th video. So Bent here is going to be back. We're going to talk about some Ken Wheeler physics nonsense. And when I say nonsense, I mean it very literally. This stuff...
I'm going in completely oblivious to this person.
Bent here
I heard the word physics, and I was like, wait, I don't want to know anything else.
Yeah, Ben Hovind has never seen a single thing from Ken Wheeler.
And we're going to call it Bent Without Kent.
Yep. Also, once we're done with the Ken Wheeler video, because it's only like a 20-minute video or something, and a fair bit of it is him just waffling about whatever. After that, there's going to be an AMA. Now, it's an Ask Me Anything. It's not necessarily a I will answer anything. You may ask anything, and I will say before it starts, like, hey guys, I'm probably not going to answer questions like this. So you can ask them, I'll read them, but I probably won't answer them. That's Thursday, the 4th of August, 2022, is going to be the second and final part of the video about Cindy Lincoln and stratigraphy. Friday is going to be a speculative evolution video. Saturday is probably going to be a Dabber Reacts, if I get someone for like because I've seen some of the behind-the-scene photos that, because of rules about publication and whatnot, are not technically able to be shared publicly, but, I've seen some of those. They're pretty awesome. So instead of having an Eric with Erica, we're going to have another Kent with Bent. It'll be 89. Then Thursday will be I actually don't remember what's on Thursday. I think it's the start of like the Stephen Meyer series. That might be it. It might be the start of the Stephen Meyer series. Yeah. But fingers crossed. Later, guys. Thanks for watching, but before you go, I just want to say a special thank you to my channel members and my patrons, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bob Knob, Work in Progress, Bent Hovind, Cynically Skeptic, Denny5252, Ian Chen, John Ackerman, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, McSpooks, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Veed, and Patrick Dennis. As you probably know, YouTube is a very volatile platform, and from month to month my income on the channel can swing wildly. But the people you see on screen are directly supporting so that I don't have to worry too much about that, and the channel can keep going $1.99 a month. On pay, the annual or monthly pledge isn't right for you, but you still want to support the channel, there is a merch store down in the description, as well as an Amazon wish list, just for me. And if financial support isn't something you can or want to do, then if you still want to help out the channel, please just like and share these videos and make sure you comment on them. It really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching.